Good morning, everybody. Got your coffee? I got mine. So, happy Saturday morning. We gonna talk a little bit because I got a little something on my mind. Um, I want to talk specifically to Black women this morning, but everyone else is free to listen. Maybe you'll get something from it too, babies. Anyway, before I get started, I have some people that I need to thank. I want to start by thanking Patricia. Patricia, thank you so much for the wonderful sponsoring this morning's cup of coffee. I appreciate you. It's delicious too. One thing about us is that one of the things that we will splurge on in this house is coffee. And good coffee is rather expensive. It is. Sometimes when we're out and about, though, we'll get coffee from our favorite little coffee place. It's an independently owned because you can't really go to any of the big places anymore because they're all, so political and so wrong. And, it is what it is. But Sean, thank you. Thank you, Sean. I see you, sis. And Bethany, who always shows up so respectful and always puts the little comment that says reparations. And I just want to tell y'all, Bethany, she do come through with them reparation payments, as often as she can. I appreciate it because it all goes back out and, to help my community. And I thank you. And I thank you for showing up and being respectful like you do. And to J. Anthony Holiday. J. Anthony Holiday. Thank you, baby. When I tell you, sir, it's the way your name sounds so presidential. It sounds so presidential to me. J. Anthony Holiday. You should run for something. I'd vote for you just on that name. And I didn't spend enough time thanking my good sis and my mutual yesterday. I feel when I watched that video back. Tabitha speaks politics. Thank you so much for showing up and always being supportive of the library pantry. That's where you prefer your donation to go to. And we need it. We've done some more restructuring of the library pantry. It's always constantly changing with the ever-growing need and the way we have to show up for the community based on those needs. So I thank you. People like that make that very possible for us. Thank you. I want to tell you a story this morning about a lesson that I had to learn. One thing about me in my real life, I don't know if it comes through on these videos, but I am my husband says that he's never known anyone that can move a mountain the way that I can. Just make shit happen. Figure out a way to just get it done. I am very solution based. If there is a problem presented to me, I will figure out a way around it. I'm really good about that. And so with that being said, let me tell you about this story. Back when I lived in Detroit, remember I told you that my mom gave me her house, and it was the house that I was raised in, and then I raised my kids in it. And right around, I'll say toward the mid 90s, the crack epidemic just decimated my neighborhood. It did. It took a thriving Black community and turned it into an actual war zone. The last time that I was there and visiting, I just wanted to show my husband the house that I grew up in. I hardly recognized the street. It was heartbreaking. I remember the people that I grew up with on that street. I remember Mrs. W down on the corner. She had this winding driveway. And she's the reason why I always wanted a house with the winding driveway. And she was a pretty red-headed white lady. And after her husband died, she would go out and she had this flower garden. And she had these purple irises in her yard that I always loved. And she would cut me some from time to time because I love flowers. And I would always talk to her. I think I was like one of the few kids that would actually have a conversation with her and stop and just chit chat with her. She was so nice. Well, people like her, they died off and their kids sold the house. And then predatory investors came into the neighborhood, scooped them up for real cheap and rented them out to poor people who were, on assistance. And there's nothing wrong with being on assistance, but we do know that sometimes that can also come with a certain type of a mentality, you know, and it's not everybody. We know that. And that's not what I'm saying. But when you have more people on assistance in a neighborhood than you do homeowners, it changes the neighborhood. It does. And that's what happened to our street. I can remember our home being in between two rental properties. And I'm not going to lie, it was horrifying. Back then, you know, you didn't have to have all these checks and balances to make sure that you could rent a property. Back then, they just rented to anybody. They wouldn't fix up the properties. It got bad. And I'm still working and I'm still trying to live my life. Now, there was this lady that lived across the street from me. Her name was Mrs. K. We'll call her. And she was a retired auto worker, and I was an actual auto worker, just going to work every day, trying to take care of my kids and raise my family. Now, I knew that eventually I was going to have to move because I was fighting a losing battle. You know, you can't fight a neighborhood, you can't. And I wanted better for my kids, but I was still trying to kind of hold on toward the end. One thing about me is that I love curb appeal. I do. That's the bougie in me. I love a beautiful house. I love when people drive down the street and they point at my house and they say, that is a pretty house. I put a lot of effort into that. And I've always been that way. It doesn't matter if I owned or whether I rented. I like a pretty property. I love curb appeal. So I took real good care of the property, real good care of the lawn. That lawn, like I said, it went way back because that was the house that I grew up in. Well, when people move in next door to you and they don't care about anything like that because they have never owned anything, never invested anything, never had anything of their own. Sometimes our people can become damaged like that. You know, poverty can do that to you, you know. And while I didn't really understand that back then, I understand it a lot better now. But still, you don't want to interfere with the way you're choosing to live your life, right? It just is what it is. So anyway, these people would have all these junk cars in the driveway, and they were always fixing on them. And so they would sit on the border of my lawn that I paid companies to come out and maintain for me. And they were making all these bald spots down one side of my lawn. And my lawn, my beautiful lawn. And so I asked them, would you please stay off my lawn? And I would show them the damage that they were doing to my lawn. And, you know, and they, you know, their attitude was just like, but they didn't care. They, you know, some people just don't care about stuff like that. Again, the property that they were renting was not the best. And only people like that would have rented a property like that. So the owner's name was Jimmy Mack. I'll never forget him. He was a slumlord. Took advantage of his people. He did. So anyway, they kept doing it. They just wouldn't stay off my lawn. Didn't matter how pretty my house was. They didn't respect it because they didn't respect themselves, and they didn't respect other black people, and they didn't respect the fact that they didn't work and I went off to work every day, and they just didn't respect it. So I was at my wit's end because my lawn, meantime, is being trashed. And then I have to go along that side of the property sometimes, pick up beer bottles, cigarette butts, that kind of thing. And I kept asking these people. This went on for a while. And I was so sick of it. I was just so sick of it. Then I remember one day I was driving down the street and I was coming home, right? And they had tires on my lawn, you know, just they were sitting on it. And then they get up because I guess someone might have said, you know, here this bitch come, you know, and then they get up and, you know, so that they don't have to hear my mouth. And so I'm like, and I was talking to Miss K about it. I was so tired. And she's one of those brashy old black women. You know what I'm saying? She keep it real, honey. She's very honest, very outspoken, had full grown adult sons that were a lot older than I was. So this was a older, you know, community member, older sister, one of my elders. And I kept talking to her and talking to her about it. And she said, yeah, the way the neighborhood, she also had a beautiful property. Just beautiful. And, she was sad at watching the neighborhood turn into what it was turning into too. And I told her, I said, I'm eventually have to move out of here with my kids. I remember talking to it with the sisters at work, and they were like, you're making too much money to live over there. You gonna have to move. You gonna have to leave your people behind. And that was hard to take because it was my neighborhood. I grew up in it. I went to school over there. I mean, I had all my milestones in that neighborhood. I didn't want to leave it. But I am solution based. And one day I talked to my mother because she was still the legal property owner. And I said, hey, would you mind if I got the yard fenced in? She said, no, do whatever you want to do. It's your house. It wasn't really, but still, I asked her. And I said, okay. One day, I got a company to come out. Excuse me, very professional brother. Very professional black man child. And so handsome. But I'll never forget that. But he was so professional. And they came out, they took measurements and everything. He gave me, I never even got any other estimates because he gave me an estimate that I loved. I loved his professionalism. I loved the way he handled me. I loved the way he understood the problem. And they came out one day, they measured, and I heard the people on the porch saying, what is she doing? What's she out there doing? What is she doing? What's she doing? And so I got the fence. They came out another day. They made the holes for the post and everything. And then then they cemented them, and they knew that a fence was going up. And that completely solved my problem. Plus, it added to the curb appeal of the house. I was happy. I was happy. And then I remember, and this is the most important part of this lesson, when they were done and when they left, I guess Miss Kelly, I shouldn't have said her name. I said Miss K. Well, she's gone from us now, so I don't think I could do any harm. I love Miss Kelly. But anyway, Miss Kelly came out on her porch, and honey, she got a cigarette in her hand, her Virginia Slim, and she leaned up against the railing of her porch, and she looks over after and I look at the fence, and she say, it's looking good over there, girl. It's looking good over there. Think, what's our sis name? This will sum up Miss Kelly's personality. And what's love got to do with it? Blackish. What's our sister's name? She was just like her. She was just like her. Her name escapes me. I don't know how I can't remember her name. I know her name, but menopause brain. I know y'all gonna write it a million times down in the comment. Like, how could you? How dare you? I know. Just don't swipe my black card, y'all. Anyway, but she came out. She had that cigarette, honey, and she said, actions speak louder than words. They no longer had the extra room they clearly needed. They had to park the cars on the lawn or in the backyard and do it. I didn't care. My hydrangea bushes started to thrive once again. My bald spots in the yard started to grow back. And I was happy. And it added extra beauty, a security feature, lovely fence. And Miss Kelly, actions speak louder than words. All of that frustration I was allowing in to get me bothered, to stress me out, when all I had to do, because I had the money, in them days, I made really good money. I wasn't struggling a bit. Had money to burn. And all it took was $800. Less than a paycheck to get my peace back. And I thought about that. I think about that throughout the years, how we allow frustration to creep in when we don't have to, when we don't need to. I bring this up to make the point about these two brothers that y'all black women, y'all sisters, my lovely, beautiful, wonderful, amazing black sisters. You all are allowing these black men to gaslight you. One is dead and in the ground and can't even talk no more. And y'all are letting words that he said back in the day, once upon a time, gaslight you. And his brother, who is alive and well and thinks the same way, is coming in. This Telvon Campbell and brother, that's not something that y'all need to worry about. It's not something that you need to be excited. You need to let yourself and your spirit, disturb your spirit or your peace. When we say we're resting, we got to rest from it all. Not just racist white people, not just anti-black other POC members, but also the people in our community that are problematic, especially these red type, manosphere type, self-hating black men. Baby, rest. All you got to do when you see those little videos, one where they're begging black women to donate to bury this man, and then the other where they're trashing those very same black women, all you got to do is keep scrolling and stay in your peace. Go plant some tomatoes. Go get your braids done. Go get your nails done by black people. Go to your favorite coffee shop. Take a walk. Go volunteer at a library or a shelter. Go do something worthwhile in your community other than arguing with the conflicted people in our community. Harriet set the blueprint. And I myself hate how long it took me to let some black people go. But that's what we got to do. We got to let them go. And say a little prayer over them that one day they get their shit together so that they can show back up. Because some people do grow. And we got to give them the room to grow. That means we got to leave them over there somewhere until they can get their shit together. Or not. Or not. Because when they don't, you see what happens. When you lose the support of black women, we as a collective, black women, we have to help the world understand that. What things look like when they lose our support. And that includes some of these men in our community. When these men are getting so out of bounds that black men are also checking their social medias to make sure they can be trusted, and black men are starting to speak out like the way that they are now. Remember, they used to wouldn't check them. But you seeing black men start to check these men now because they realize that it's a problem. Because those that had at least a teaspoon of common sense or more is not liking the tone that some of us sisters are setting. Because when you lose the only people on the planet that's actually rooting for your black ass, when you lose our support, that will be felt. And they can lose our support quietly. We ain't got to make noise going out the door. Just go out the door. Close it. You ain't even got to slam it. The impact will still be felt. The loss will still be felt. The loss of support will still be felt. Let them implode. Let them feel it. Now, what we got to do, and when I say that there needs to be a case study, sometimes black women in my comments, I don't know, I think y'all feel like y'all need to check me on that. But let me check back. Because this isn't about us trying to save them. I'm not trying to save them. I accept that they're already lost, baby. I never said we needed to save them because we need to understand the behavior, that level of self-hate, how they got there. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to study it so that we stop turning these types of men out in the community. We, as the mothers of the community, and it's just the truth, we have to be more deliberate about infusing our sons with the sense of their blackness and the respect for black women. We have to. And let me tell you why. And this is not me blaming black women. This is me saying, look, we can't on the one hand say that white women, listen, when we say, and we know it's the truth, white women, they marry these racist men and they raise them. And we know that. And why do we know that? We know that because a mother has the greatest influence over her child. Yes, there are special circumstances. She dies. Maybe she didn't raise the child. Maybe someone else did. But mothers have the most influence over their child. That's just the truth. My sons are in their 30s. And they know that they are going to get good, sound, sage advice from me. They know that I'm going to tell them the right thing to do. That is the influence that I have over them. And if we are that influential over our children, we need to make sure that we are hyper-focusing on these boys, because if nothing else, we are learning that too many of them are hating themselves. And this is also not me saying that every black man with a white partner hates themselves. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is a particular brand of black men who, for one reason or another, hasn't experienced the self-love that blackness can promote within us. Excuse me. And I'm not saying that we need to do that so that we can save those black men again. I'm saying that we need to do that so that we can save little black boys who are going to become black men, our sons. Also, too, can we please stop telling them to man up? Can we excuse me, can we retire that saying? Because it's toxic. Let them feel their feelings, their emotions. That is the only way for them to become emotionally intelligent. That saying is just as toxic as telling little girls to be a good little girl. Be a good girl. It raises, we inadvertently raise women to play nice with men that they don't necessarily want to. Both sayings are very toxic. We got to start having kids because we actually want to be mothers and fathers. Excuse me. We got to really get back to raising our kids. And if we don't want to raise kids and we know it ain't in us, we need to do the responsible thing and not bring them here. We do. We really do. With that being said, I'll leave my Cash App and Venmo down in the comments if you care to support this video or the platform. I appreciate you, or the library pantry as well. I appreciate you. You have a good day. I hope you got something from this discussion.